Welcome to Profit Sharing in the Real World. I'm your host, Danny Murphy. This podcast features commentary from Dick Erickson, author of the book, Profit Sharing in the Real World, which is available at Amazon.com. In today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the four pillars of a successful business, and that is dignity and respect for other people. Dick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Danny. Good to be here.
So when we talk about dignity and respect, there are basically, we broke it down into four categories, but there are others. But we're going to talk about employees, customers, suppliers and vendors, and professional support people. So how does dignity and respect play into relationships with employees?
Well, there's a saying I was asked one time, who's more important, the customer or the employees, which is two of the four we're going to talk about here. And quite frankly, I found it was hard to differentiate because really they're two different parts of the puzzle and of really having the type of relationship you want with customers, employees. And but the real issue is if you do it with dignity, you don't have to differentiate it too far. You're going to be upfront. You're going to be honest with people. You're going to be held. You don't mind being held accountable for what you've told them. You're going to be, which is a matter of honesty. Sometimes what I say is what I'm going to do. So we want that kind of relationship, and we want our employees to extend that beyond me, the boss or the owner, that goes on in the business all the time. So the employees have to be empowered somewhat from the company itself that they're going to treat people with dignity, and they know why. They want to be respected. They don't mind being held accountable for what they're saying to the customers. We're not in the sales game. We're in the deal of taking care of customers and their needs.
So dignity for the employee, that goes to the point of a decent pay rate.
Yeah, you're not trying to get something from anybody that isn't a sense of fairness. And that's kind of subjective what that is sometimes. But if you look in the marketplace, it'll tell you that employees, what does that type of employee get in the marketplace? And if you're trying to get it under or trying to, well, I'll pay you off under the counter or something strange, that isn't the dignity. We want a straight up company, and because we want them to extend that to the customer, the vendors, and other people they're going to interact with themselves.
Now, there's a dignity that comes with expecting people to do what they're capable of doing. We talked a little bit about that, didn't we?
Yes. And where you want them to buy into what it is you're talking. And sometimes whether it's, I was in the Marine Corps, we had the drill instructors and stuff like that, but it was still a way. They had a mission. It was to teach us what it was to be on the battlefield someday or things like that. And so it sounded kind of hard sometimes, but the real point was they were giving me the respect and dignity I needed by teaching me those things. And sometimes when you're really trying to kind of just about remake an individual in a military setting, and there is some, you're asking him to make a change. This is a little different than that, but.
Well, it's a little different, but I think that's also valid. We talked a little bit about the relationship of a drill instructor to a recruit. And, when he's pushing that scared recruit to get up that rope, it's not because he wants that guy to fall down and break his neck. It's because he wants that guy to discover what he's capable of.
Amen. And that is well put. Now, I think that's the thing. It was a lot of things that we didn't even know we could do. I can tell you, and you were in the military as I was. And so all of a sudden you realize, hey, I can do that. And a lot of times I never had to do it before, but all of a sudden I'm in a deal where I need to know how to do this, and I need to be able to, that they can count on me to do it. Yes.
So, and once a person finds out he's capable of doing something, he can do it over and over and over.
And it becomes a way of life practically. And you say, I don't know, is that a habit? It's beyond a habit. It's the way of life.
So it's the same in the workplace in many ways. You might have an employer or a manager pushing you to do things that seem a little bit beyond your capabilities. but that manager believes that you can do it, and that's why he or she might be pushing you to do something.
And that's what you're trying to get your organization to the highest level possible, so that you're respected and thought of as a when people think of doing business with you. What type of why is that? A big part of that is treating people with dignity.
Okay, so Dick, we've been talking about dignity for employees. Now we're going to move into talking about dignity as it pertains to customers and clients. It's a different thing. Tell me about that a little bit. Your thoughts on how to provide dignity to your customers.
Well, I think I'd start off this way: is that there's potential customers are going to show up, and they're going to ask you to do something that you're not that isn't one of your specialties. So that's something you do, and how you deal with customers' needs, even if you can't provide the need. So that is a dignity of being honest up front, what you can and do. So let's assume let's go to the point that this is something we do. Okay, we can do that. And now we have to be very truthful with them about timing, how quick we can do it, what things we know they're going to need for sure to get this problem solved, not trying to nickel dime them along the way. In our type of business is, if we're going to do a break job, what are the 3 other things that could possibly show up? Try to get them on the board that those could be possibilities. So there's no surprise. We're not trying to take advantage of anyone. So the whole thing is to keep an environment with dignity that they feel we're taking through there, and they can trust us and on what we're talking about. So we're not leading them down the road and all of a sudden they go, "Oh, this completely got out of hand. I didn't expect this to be, and even if it's going to get bad, tell them up front. This could be an expensive deal. You might want to get a couple other bids on this."
Now, in your business, there had to be times when managers were dealing with customers frequently who had no idea what the manager was talking about as far as what they were going to do and why.
Yeah,
it's very important to do that with the correct mindset.
That's right.
Not condescending.
Well, even on that, which I kind of ended up with a minute ago, is not to say, listen, you might want to get a second opinion on this. And that at least puts it out there that, listen, I'm trying to do it right, and understand they have the rights to do that, even encourage it if it's kind of a gray area. And I know myself as with how I dealt with my employees. I said, listen, be prepared for that. So don't be trying to sell things that aren't necessary.
So you can never leave the customer feeling stupid.
No. And stupid is one thing. And then the other thing is, are they taking advantage of me? Which is a step beyond being, I don't know. And now they're adding this here to the ticket or something, or they're telling me, is how do I get them to understand as I walk them through to meet their needs? Because sometimes they want one thing, but they don't need that. They need something else. And how do I move them from that to the thing they truly need? And most of the time, it's a safety issue, possibly.
And to do that in a way that's understandable to them. And in an attitude that conveys that you care about what's going on with them.
And most of the time I found is when you're open that they could get another thought process from your competitor possibly. But you've treated them the way you'd like to be treated.
So, Dick, we've talked about how to show dignity and respect to employees and to customers. And now we're going to talk about another set of relationships that are very important to a business. And that's the relationships with suppliers, vendors, and professional support people. What about them?
Well, they're kind of on the peripheral a lot of times, especially the support people. But what's so important, we find we needed them. Like the suppliers, I could tell you at times I would need something from a supplier that I couldn't run down and get right away. And by having a good relationship with them, I've seen them go the extra mile, not just because of the sale, but they knew I was in a pinch. So having a close relationship with your vendors is very important. And part of this is, do you pay your bills on time? Do you again, do what you say you're going to do, which would be paying the bills on time. Doing things that they need at times themselves. Dick, I can't get someone down there right now. I might run my man to their place if it was a vendor. And normally they always, but to work together. When they had a problem, you worked with them. If they didn't have it, you try to figure out, could I wait a little longer? Tell my customer, listen, that's on its way, but my supplier has to go find it in another place or something like that. But understand they're human beings too, and they appreciate your support, and it's amazing how they'll go the extra mile for that. It shouldn't be the only reason we do that, but we want it that we're down and out. We would appreciate a little extra help once in a while.
Well, and that's the kind of relationship you need with suppliers and vendors and professional support people.
That's right.
If you need a lawyer to do something overnight, well, hopefully he'll come through if he's able to, right?
That's right.
Or, a vendor to come up with something that's unusual. Yeah, that's so important. And you build those relationships by treating people with dignity and respect for what they're doing.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. Just can't do it. I think real quickie, I got a tailor that I work with, and usually it's 1 week in between and taking the deal, and they'll have it done by the following week, the same day. And then once in a while, something comes up, you got a wedding that Saturday, and it's Thursday afternoon, and you really need it Saturday.
That would be a shotgun wedding.
Yeah. So how do I? And can I get a little? And then they'll say, Dick, what do you need? I need it Saturday. It's done. Usually, when it's said that way, you have got a relationship, and you don't take advantage. You don't ask for it if it's not necessary. You wait that week because, well, I can wait. That's not a big deal. So they can run their company as best that they can too.
So, Dick, we've been talking about dignity and respect for employees, for customers, for suppliers and vendors, and for professional support people. Tell me, how does that connect to profit sharing?
Well, dignity, what we're asking people to be is upfront with the customers, with the vendors and all this here. But when we say that we're going to look after your interests, I have found, though, one of the best issues of doing that is to share profits with them. Now, we're going to get in that in a bigger way in a minute, but the point is that you're showing that you can be trusted, that you're going to do something like that. And in our company where we had a retirement plan too. There wasn't many small companies that had retirement plans, but that's you do that through the profits. So profit sharing is such a big issue in running a business, I find. And it's kind of been it's the last thing talked about, and it should be probably part of everything we do talk about. Well, how does that come about? Because it brings you to another level through the employees. They're fired up and they know there's something in it for them. And it isn't just about dollars, but they get rewarded for giving it that extra get up and go.
Now, you've mentioned several times that your profit sharing plan provided your employees with a retirement plan. And that gives a sense of dignity in itself, because an employee who feels like, hey, I'm not just working for an hourly rate or a weekly paycheck. I'm building something.
Yes.
And that there's a dignity that comes from that, isn't there?
Amen. Amen. And sometimes, depending on their age, they don't really appreciate it sometimes, but I'll tell you what, later in life, they're going to be happy that the sooner they got into a profit or in a retirement plan, the better off they'll be.
Well, Dick, it's been interesting talking about dignity as it applies to employees, customers, and others, and always a pleasure to talk to you, Dick. You've been listening to Profit Sharing in the Real World. I'm your host, Danny Murphy. If you have a question you would like Dick to address in a future episode, please send me an email, danny@successstory.biz. And don't forget, Dick's book, Profit Sharing in the Real World, is available at amazon.com. Thank you for listening.